Hello and welcome. Does your base look like this? Do you find yourself constantly going nuclear under the pressure of incoming mortars and machine gun fire? Then this is the how-to for you. The goal of this video is to show you a very basic mortar rush style build, a build I personally use and one I've used to great success in long ago 1v1 tournaments. Naturally, there are countless minute changes that you can do to specialize it, but the purpose of this build is to be the highest degree of cost efficient while still building a strong economy and fielding mortars as soon as possible. The first thing to notice here is that I've gone for economy first, building 2 mines and a wind turbine, then building the workshop tech structure. One important note is that I only build exactly as much structure as is needed. Building wooden structure is cheap, but the costs add up quickly. Once your tech structure has started constructing, you can spend your resources building out a place to put your weapons. This segment of the game is critical to most builds, as you'll begin to see what each player intends on building. I like to spend some of this time observing my opponent, but for the sake of this video I'll be focusing almost blindly on my own base. Now here I want to highlight the importance of building only the needed structure for your base. Notice that I have to wait between building each little segment, and this is because I've used all my metal and have to wait to mine more before continuing construction. If I, for whatever reason, decide to build a segment that I don't need right now, then I'll just have to wait longer to build my mortars, and that's very bad. Most of this time will be spent waiting for the tech structure to complete, but that's okay. If done correctly, you should have mined just enough metal to build exactly 3 mortars just as the workshop is completing. Once you have your mortars placed, you can spend your additional resources on dealing with whatever your opponent plans to do. Be it an additional sniper or a few machine guns, you'll have the metal to build what you need. The next goal will be to obtain the upgrade center, which you can then use to upgrade your mortars and finish off your opponent. You'll see here some examples of places where you can build weapons, but these should be placed based on countering what your opponent is doing. I highly advise getting at least 1 sniper, as your opponent will need to build machine guns to defend themselves, and, well, machine guns are notoriously vulnerable to snipers. But now here comes the doing segment of the build. On the vanilla map shown here, the ideal firing arc for mortars is approximately 70% power at the full angle. And remember to never stop firing, even if your opponent is blocking the shots. Use your sniper to clear the way for your mortars to hit their mark. During all of this, your stronger economy will be netting you enough metal to start building your upgrade center. Don't forget to put down the upgrade center as soon as you reach 600 metal, because you lose 20 metal per second for every second that you sit on the maximum resource cap, so don't do that. The next segment I want to show you is the heavy mortar rush. The heavy mortar rush works exceptionally well against players who are skipping any kind of early game pressure and going straight for heavy weapons. The benefit of heavy mortar rush is that your opponent has less time to react before getting hit with potentially game-ending damage. I've skipped the first section of the build because it's exactly the same as the standard mortar rush. The difference comes in a decision during the phase where we're building up our base. Remember when I mentioned that this phase is the time when you get to see what tech your opponent is going for? Well, if they're going to go straight to heavy weapons, you instantly put down your upgrade center and continue building on. The reason I never go for this out of the gate is that you're much more vulnerable to everything when going for heavy mortars first. That 600 metal spent on the upgrade center is pricey, especially when that 600 metal could have gone to something that can return fire or otherwise defend against incoming fire. Just continue building up as usual and hold off on firing until all your heavy mortars are ready or you're certain that your opponent knows they are coming. You'll be starved for resources during this phase of the heavy mortar build, but if your opponent has no plans to pressure you, then you're in the clear to keep building up. One thing to note is that constantly firing your heavy mortars will put a stress on your energy production. You should be able to fire them constantly, but continued investment into other sections of your base will be stunted until you get a second turbine. So make sure to get a second turbine sometime during your onslaught when time and resources allow for it. If your opponent has not at all prepared for the heavy mortar surprise, then it's very likely that the game will end in 2 to 3 volleys of the mortars. The biggest weakness of these two builds are their dependency on mortars. If your opponent is able to deal with them, then you're forced to transition to a different set of weapons and are now way behind your opponent. The most common ways to do that are with a strong flak machine gun defense, sniper or AP sniper play, or with their own mortars. All three of these ways to counter the mortar rush can be stopped by applying more pressure to your opponent. Keep your machine guns and snipers up, control the map, and finish with the mortars. And that's it for this video. So make sure to leave a like if you guys want to see more Forts builds, and make sure to leave a comment below with the next build you guys would like to see. So with that, have a nice day, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Later!